Hailing services weren't spared from the pandemic's impact. The demand scaled back to the minimum as many were forced to stay home. How will these services adapt to renewed calls for stricter rules? We're speaking now with George Royeca, Chief Transport Advocate of Motorcycle Taxi Angkas and 2020 TOYM awardee. George, thank you so much for joining us on The Final Word. With the rising number of infections, we're now more than 630,000. And the curfew being imposed in Metro Manila, could this impact transport, especially ride-hailing services like yourself?
Hi, Rico. Good evening. Definitely, no, this will impact transport services because there's less people that's going to be out. In fact, right now, we're at 1/3 of our fleet from where we were pre-COVID levels. So definitely, this will have some impact on our operations.
So tell us, where can ride-hailing services help during this pandemic? Especially if there's a possibility that the government could tighten, quarantine restrictions yet again.
I think motorcycle taxis are still considered essential workers, so they do deliver essential goods. So I think that's very, very important to distinguish them from just regular public transport. But also, there's added benefits to motorcycle taxis. I mean, they have the barrier, it's open air ventilation. So they still are one of the safest forms of transportation because of the nature of the air exchange. Now, it's an open air exchange for this type of situation. So we're still hoping to keep moving forward and really expanding our fleet to make sure that we're able to provide service to the Filipino people during the time of the pandemic.
And George, how many motorcycle riders do you have at the moment?
So we started with 30,000 pre-pandemic. Now we're at 10,000. We're about 1/3 of our fleet, but we're doing our testing on a regular basis. They're all RT-PCR tested, and we're putting them online as quickly as we can to be able to also service the demand. Unfortunately, right now, the demand is really limited also because a lot of people are still working from home. We have done other pivoting, like partnering with the Red Cross. Later on, we'll be able to deliver saliva PCR tests to your homes and collect them. So those are some of the things that we're doing to not just help in the pandemic, but also ensure that it's sustainable for bikers, no, na meron din silang pagkakakitaan sa ngayong pandemya.
And of course, you're also training your drivers to be first responders.
Correct. They're first responders in emergency situations, and then also how to handle no vaccines. So Angkas has always been in the forefront and part of the private sector collaboration with the government, even from before when we were not operating. So this is part of our service, that we've been doing in the, in what's happening right now.
But George, if this increase continues unabated, what is currently the sense in the business community? Because the president has said we should not despair, and COVID-19 is maliit na bagay. Does the business community have the same sentiment as the president?
No, I think we all know the suffering that we've had over the last year. Just not just on the health side, but also on the business side. Everyone's really felt the dent. There is hope at the end of the tunnel. There is light. The vaccines are here. And hopefully these vaccines will be able to protect us from severe conditions that's brought about by COVID. So at least it will prevent deaths and hospitalization. And that is something to look forward to. But definitely we will need to be able to survive by then. It's not going to be overnight. I don't think we can afford another lockdown, but I think the government is correct in their way right now of doing localized, very, very localized lockdown. So I think that is the way to go to keep the balance between health and livelihood.
And what is your sense, George? The only way for the economy to bounce back from the doldrums, currently we are in a recession and it might continue on for the remainder of the year, is the vaccine the main proponent for us to get back to where we were pre-COVID?
I think Rico, there's the big misconception in the vaccine. The vaccine doesn't necessarily guarantee that you won't get COVID, but it will guarantee that you won't die from it. So we still need to make sure that we obey all of the necessary strict health protocols. Wearing a mask, wearing a face shield, keeping your social distance. So I think there's COVID fatigue right now. So people are forgetting, to wear their mask, or they don't know when to take off their mask and when not to take off their mask. In transit, na habang nagbabiyahe sila, nakamask sila in face shield. Ang problema, pagdating kung saan sila pupunta, whether it's the restaurant or even at home, we have a lot of home gatherings right now. So marami ding cause ng spread galing sa community. No? So we need to make sure that we have both. It's not just the vaccines, it's making sure we're able to coexist with this virus despite whether the vaccines are there or not. And we can only do this if we adhere to the strict minimum health protocols. Number one po, wear a mask. Never take it off as much as possible.
But George, we're now averaging at least 5,000 infections every day. And I've been talking to all of the czars over the past few days. And they've told me the government has done its job. It's doing everything it can to be able to cap or to stop or to basically have a solution to this ongoing pandemic. But now, a lot of pointing fingers. Should the business community be also blamed for this rising number of infections? Because there's a lot of pressure to open up the economy.
You know, the surge is definitely real, no? And if we're not careful, this outbreak can go out of hand talaga. But I think right now is not the time to point fingers and blame. We've been working with the government. The private sector has developed a very good collaboration ecosystem with the national government. And I think we need to support each other. But this is not a one-man job or a one organization job. Hindi lang po ito trabaho ng pribadong sektor, hindi din trabaho lang ng gobyerno. Kasama po yung publiko dito. So talagang kailangan maging disiplinado po tayo sa pagsusuot ng mask. Kasi prevention is key. We can do all of the isolation centers, all of the vaccines, all of that is going to happen after the fact. No? But if we can prevent COVID from happening, I myself is a good example. I go out almost on a daily basis, but I make sure that I wear my face shield and I wear my mask and I never take it off. And awa ng Diyos, hanggang ngayon, Rico, I'm still safe. So hopefully, everybody can see the value in this, no? And everybody will just work together. You know, you can point your finger at anybody you want, but you know, COVID doesn't care whose fault it is. It will get you if you don't follow properly the health standards.
George Royeca, stay safe, stay healthy. Angkas Chief Transport Advocate, thank you so much for joining us on The Final Word.